Is Peter Jackson going to Middle-earth hell for crimes against Iluvatar, for blasphemies, for heresies, for strange mixing of flesh, and desiring to create an accursed Nephilim, accursed, deformed, freaking abomination of desolation? Yeah, he is definitely going straight to Middle-earth hell. He can dap up Melkor and Sauron while he's down there in the outer darkness. Because, guys, what was he thinking? Tauriel and Kili? What kind of concentration of crack was he smoking? That's a new level. My goodness. Everyone knows how cringe it is in the movies, but I've never seen nobody, because these movies are irrelevant. The Hobbit trilogy, the life has passed them by, and so I'm only covering it because I hate being current and, trendy in my videos. I don't want them to get any views. Yeah, so what are you doing? Click off. So Tauriel and Kili, what a terrible combo. Why did it hurt so much? Because it was real. No, actually, it hurts so much because it's fake, because it's not in the books. That's the real reason it hurts so much. Because it was real. Cringiest line in the trilogy, if you ask me. Yeah, Tauriel and Kili. Obviously, it's a dwarf dude with an elf lady, and it's like, what is this? What's going on? This is kind of weird just off the optics of it. It looks weird. It's kind of weird. A man and an elf, that's less weird optically, because, they're kind of closer to the same height. But, it would be less perverse, according to Tolkien's lore, I think. Actually, maybe I'll have to rescind that statement so I don't have to join the little goblins and orcas in the outer darkness. It would almost be less perverse. Let's assume that if it was a hobbit and an elf, or a hobbit and a man, because of ontologies. We're going to get into all ontologies, and whatever the ology is for the source of something, wherever it comes from. So, in Tolkien's lore, it's not beyond imagination for an elf and a man, though they be different races, to get together and marry, as Arwen and Aragorn do, and Beren and Luthien, because they are both children of Iluvatar, yeah? They're both created by Iluvatar. So they've got this sort of underlying theological similarity. There's a sort of image of God that's impressed upon them directly by God, because they're created by God. And so they got that Imago Dei going on. Yeah. So that makes sense, right? Well, dwarves are created by Iluvatar too. No, they're not. In fact, the guy who creates the dwarves gets chided for it, if I'm remembering my Silmarillion correctly. If I'm Silmarillion to the correct extent here. Manwë, one of the Vala, not Iluvatar, one of his, archangel dudes. Manwë, the god of, forging and stone and earth and things. This guy, he up and creates the dwarves, because he wants something like, the men and the elves. And they're like, whoa, what are you doing? You can't just be up and creating sentient life. And so there's this great chasm of ontological separation between the men and the elves and the dwarves. And you kind of, if you don't read Tolkien with a perspective informed by people's impressions of Tolkien, but read him straight, no chaser. Just tossing down Tolkien, if you know what I'm talking about. If you go to Tolkien and just absorb him on his own merit, dwarves are like, yes, they're a different race. And it's not just a difference in height and lifespan. It's a difference in attitude and what they value. And even their like spirituality. They're a more carnal being than both men and elves. And their roots, like, man has the Númenóreans, which are high in their own merit. And where they're, while not all men are Númenóreans, they still have a capacity racially of being Númenor. What are we talking about, dude? This is kind of weird. Anyway, dwarves don't have that. All dwarves have been dwarves since they were dwarfing around, okay? They're very materialistic. They're very interested in low things, earthy things. And while they do have magic and they do write poetry and do all these things, they don't have quite the taste for them that you would see in an elf or a man. And the differences extend far beyond that. Like, even to their resilience to heat, their hardiness, they're like the stone they live in. They're like stone people almost like tiny trolls. You would think, except not at all. So terrible analogy. My bad. So yeah, they shouldn't be intermarrying with the elves and the men. That's a theological heresy. Don't spout that nonsense. Get Kili and Tauriel out of here. Now, we could stop there, but no. This is one of my videos. I get to say what I want to say. If I'm correct in remembering, also, in the Silmarillion, Manwë does not just create... I'm definitely going to get corrected on this in the comments, because I'm pretty sure this is absolute nonsense that I'm spouting. But I'm also equally more sure that it's not nonsense. Manwë also creates the Ents, right? So it'd make more sense for Tolkien to have written a romance between an Ent and a dwarf than he would have been to write a romance between an elf and a dwarf. Okay? An Ent. A Treebeard and Dwarfina over here. He's like 14 feet. She's like 3. 4, whatever. That's... ontologically, it would make more sense. But optically, not great. You can understand why it didn't go for that. So you need to reread The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings with the difference of the source in mind. Reread thinking that, okay, the dwarves, they isolate themselves from the rest of the world. Why is that? They live in isolation. Well, it's because they're ontologically isolated. Them and the Ents seem to isolate themselves, and they're obsessed with nature. For the Ents, it's trees. For dwarves, obviously, it's minerals in the earth. Things that they're not just caretakers of, but also have like an actual internal connection with. And that comes from who they were created by. The man himself, the avatar of dirt or whatever, Manwë the Vala. So isn't that funny? It would make just as much sense for Tauriel to have been risen up Treebeard, and for Treebeard to have been talking about, look at this rock. My mother, who doesn't exist because I'm the oldest Ent, but theoretically, my mother, who would be 5,000 years old, older than you, even Tauriel, bigger age gap between you and Kili. What am I saying? A bigger age gap than between you and Kili is between her and you, Tauriel, is what I'm saying. Anyway, it kind of lends perspective to how freaking stupid this diabolical, downright apostate freaking anathema heresy that Peter Jackson spouted is. Yeah, so keep heresy out of The Hobbit. Huh?